Welcome to the Trust Factor Radio, bringing you interviews and insights to unlock the power of the subconscious mind to create authority, credibility, and trust. With your host, the Authority Architect and best-selling author, Neil Howe.
Hello and welcome to the show. This is your host, Neil Howe, and today my special guest is Chaz Edward. Chaz began his career in local search a bit differently than most marketers. In the early 2000s, as the owner of a regional locksmith and security company, he had to navigate that transition from offline marketing to the new online marketing world. When phone books started failing, Chaz discovered how to successfully drive local traffic to his company using the power and reach of the internet. And by 2009, he was assisting other local businesses as well as launching multiple local service companies by leveraging his knowledge of how to grow a business using local search. He spent the next 6 years as a partner in a full-service digital agency, studying SEO patents and technical reports, testing advanced search concepts and implementing those local strategies for local businesses. In 2015, he founded Web20 Ranker, a white label local SEO company based in the USA. He has ranked thousands of Google My Business listings and hundreds of local websites, and he currently owns or manages over 700 Google My Business listings, giving him a vast insight into the tactics that work and what doesn't work. Well, this is going to make for some really interesting conversation because this is what every local business wants to do. Chaz Edward, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Neil. I'm excited to be here.
Well, like I said, this is what everybody wants to know. How do I rank on Google, and especially that coveted Google My Business area, which shows up front and center and seems to get a lot of the calls.
With Web20 Ranker, we're helping small to mid-sized agencies that are looking for a fulfillment partner. I've shifted away from the retail side of things, and I'm now behind the scenes, wholesale only, helping these agencies grow and scale by offering, our white label fulfillment services.
Yeah, so it is all about scaling once you have that, that strategy and the system down, and partnering with all these other SEO agencies and digital marketing agencies is definitely a great strategy because they need help. Speaking of that, what kind of problems do you see them having?
One of the biggest problems, and this comes from personal experience too, because I used to be a small agency owner, is you're so busy day to day trying to build links and citations and make sure they have a strong brand foundation and the on-page is correct. Suddenly you lose yourself and you forget, hey, I actually have to be selling SEO. I have to be outreaching and putting myself out there, explaining to business owners why they need my services rather than being stuck inside my business trying to do all the work myself. So that's probably the biggest challenge I see a lot of small agency owners facing, is they're stuck inside their business doing the actual work themselves when they need to be at a higher level working on their business, not in their business. So that's where we come in and help them by saying, hey, you don't have to worry about your SEO anymore. You can sell SEO, you can do your client management, your client reporting, make sure they're happy. That helps reduce the churn. Meanwhile, on the back end of it, behind the scenes, we're back there helping you make sure you have effective SEO strategies that are being implemented and fulfilled, and you don't actually have to be the SEO expert. You just have to be, the face of your agency, so to speak. So that's the number one problem that I see people having. Another problem is SEO is constantly changing and evolving. The core algorithm gets updated so often right now, and they're always constantly tweaking and shifting algorithms, whether it's organic or locally. How are you supposed to, if you're so busy managing your clients, selling your services, fulfilling SEO, how do you stay abreast of that? How do you stay at the forefront of the SEO, what's working now? And again, that's something that myself and my team, we're positioned to do. But those two things, the staying updated with the latest SEO tactics, and then obviously having a team built that's focused 100% on the fulfillment aspect of SEO. I think that's the two biggest points I help small agencies with.
Right. And I see that all the time as well, talking to people. It's like they spend, a little bit of time on sales, and then they've got a few sales, or they got a few new clients, and then all of a sudden they're busy trying to fulfill and set them up. And then, they realize that there's no more sales coming in because they're spending all their time on, fulfilling, which is, exactly what you said.
Absolutely. It's what we see also. I mean, it's the bane of the small businesses. How do you get enough time to build your business plus do the work that's needed? Well, you have to delegate then. And that's where we help them. We help come in and take some of that workload off of them.
So from an SEO perspective, what is needed? Do you have the same kind of system for each client where you do the same kind of things, or do you really look at each client individually and figure out exactly what it is that they need?
Yeah, every client's going to be different. That's why understanding, what the client's needs are supremely important. But once you get them down to, okay, does this client need, more organic work, which is ranking the website, or is it more locally, with the map visibility? Once you identify that and then kind of see what niche and how competitive that is, then you have a system in place. We try not to make SEO overly complicated. Obviously, we're always staying updated. But once you have your basic system down and you know what works to rank, you can take that and you can tweak it specifically. Okay, this client's in a city with 1 million people and it's highly competitive, so they have to do a little bit more. Or this client's in a very small city, he doesn't need as much, and we know that based on experience because we've ranked so many of them. So we have it down to a science almost. If anything's down to science, our system really is, just because for years and years we've done so many of these that we can really pinpoint exactly what system's each client's gonna benefit the most from.
And is that a big advantage that you see over agencies trying to do it themselves?
Absolutely. Having a system in place for any aspect of the business, but especially for your SEO strategies, hugely important. It's going to define what gets done when, in what order, and exactly the tasks that are going to be done. It leaves nothing up to question. And if you know that, okay, for the vast majority of time, this 100% works, like why try to reinvent the wheel? You use your system that you developed. You stick with your system, obviously update it as things change, as algorithms shift. You have to stay updated there. But ultimately, you have that system and you fall back on that system. It's going to, not only does it help you deliver consistent results, it makes it easy. You can plug and play once you have that system. You can take your Gantt chart and you can take any project manager and you can say, okay, this is my system. Go ahead and run with it. I don't have to spend months teaching you how to do something. It's already there, documented. I'm a huge believer of systematizing things. It's what makes businesses, it's the ability for businesses to grow exponentially, having those systems in place. And it's the same thing with SEO.
Right. And speaking of the system, what kind of system do you put in place? What are some of the important aspects of it?
I think one of the bigger things that's overlooked is building the brand. And that goes right back to one of Google's core algorithms, which is entity recognition. There's certain signals that Google looks for to determine, is this a real online brand? Is it trusted? Do we trust it enough? Google loves brands, and they're going to tend to rank brands higher and faster. So understanding what it takes to build that digital foundation and to actually build a digital brand for your business is, I think, probably supremely important going into any campaign. It's what we like to do across the board, whether you're trying to rank locally, whether you're a national e-com site trying to rank nationally or internationally, you need to build an online brand. And that's the foundation for ongoing success. Without that, you're going to be struggling because there's other companies out there that have already built a strong digital brand. And if you're not focused on that, you're always going to be playing catch up to them. So I think that's one of the biggest things is the brand entity right there.
So what does that involve, building a brand? What does that mean?
So when you build an online brand, it's understanding that Google takes companies that are in the same niche and they look at where that brand's been mentioned at. So if your competitor who's been in business 30 years, they've been mentioned on, obviously they have all their social profiles built out. They've been mentioned on their local chamber of commerce or a local industry forum. If they're a contractor, maybe the local contractors association mentioned them. Google looks at where your competitors are being mentioned at. And if your brand isn't being mentioned in those same places, you're going to have an issue. And it goes back to one of their older studies that's called Hilltop. And they want to know where that you're being mentioned the same place that your top competitors are, because that's one of the number one important things for your brand. Secondly, obviously, making sure that you're being any type of industry association, if you have dealings with a manufacturer or distributor, getting mentioned there is supremely important as well. And then obviously top local and national business organizations. I'm a huge fan of Chamber of Commerce and Better Business Bureau and stuff like that to build an online brand. And I think if you have those things, you're steps ahead of most businesses that are trying to.
So when you talk about getting mentions on these sites, is this links from their sites pointing to you, or is it just mentions?
It can be both. Google's able to recognize if your brand is being mentioned without having a hyperlink there, you do get credit for that. So you don't always have to have a link there. Obviously, links help. Links are important, especially if it's a do follow link, getting some equity from it. But it's not necessary. If your brand just gets a write-up on someone's, on a manufacturer's site and they don't actually link out, that's fine as long as Google can positively identify which brand is being talked about. It does pass relevance. You do get rewarded for that. So not necessarily always have to be a link, as long as Google can understand that which brand is being talked about.
And speaking of that relevance, does it need to be in that same niche or the same local area, or can it be from anywhere talking about you?
You want to try to get the same mentions that your competitors have. So if they're getting a ton of local mentions, then you need to get a ton of local mentions. If they're getting more national mentions or, regional, like what I keep going back to like an accredited Better Business Bureau profile. I love those things to build an online brand because it's really one of the top citations and mentions a brand can get, I think, in my opinion. They're pricey. So those aren't really local. Those are more of a national or regional. BBB's regional, but but it's really identifying what your competitors have, what Google has already shown they liked for your niche. Because obviously, especially if you're a startup, you're up and coming brand trying to, gain visibility, Google has already said, you know what, I like X, Y, and Z. They're my top 3 brands in this niche. Well, you have to investigate what they're doing exactly, where they're being mentioned at, and then try to emulate those as near as possible, because Google already told you, this is what I like. This is what our algorithm likes for this search term or this niche. So using that strategy, just kind of doing a little bit of investigation of your competitors can really enlighten you what you need there. And I think every niche is going to be a little bit different, what you need.
Right. So you mentioned there, citations. And when I think of citations, I'm thinking more of the Google My Business, which is that name, address, and phone number. Is that what you're talking about for branding as well, or is it more just about the name?
Yeah, it is. Name, address, and phone is important when you're doing citations, but in my opinion, it's not as important as it used to be. The super important thing is making sure that Google can recognize which company's being mentioned. Companies change addresses, that information changes. So, and Google is getting smarter and smarter, their algorithms, their machine learning, where a couple of years ago, if you had an inconsistent name, address, phone number, that could actually have a pretty nasty, effect on your rankings or your potential to rank. Whereas nowadays, it's a little bit lessened. It's still important, but Google's understanding more that businesses are dynamic, addresses are dynamic. The way addresses are written and the way phone numbers are written, those things are dynamic. Before, not so much. Now Google is very smart. So just the biggest thing though is if you do a Google search for your brand name, there should be no doubt on page 1 which company Google thinks your brand name's talking about. And I see that a lot of times where companies have very similar sounding names to one another and they suffer from brand dilution. And they didn't do enough to set themselves apart from another company that sounds similar. And you can see, like, if somebody searches your company name and your website's there on page 1, and then you scroll down to number 3 and another company's website's there on page 1, you have a branding problem. And that's gonna hurt your rankings ultimately, because entity recognition is a huge factor in ranking, especially locally. And I see that a lot of times companies will have very similar sounding names and they didn't do enough to separate themselves. So yeah.
One of the things, obviously, the business name, you want to rank for that as well, but do people search for the actual person's name, the business owner's name as well?
I mean, I would assume sometimes they do if they're investigating the business, if they're really, maybe if it's like a high ticket item, maybe if you're an attorney and your firm's name's different than yours, somebody might search your personal name to see what that is. Or if you set yourself up as an expert and people want to really look into that, then searching for the personal name, people do associate that with the business. Saying that, Google more often than not searches for that stuff and associates that. So, if your company owner is listed as Mike Jordan, then you better make sure Mike Jordan is always the one that's mentioned with your company, because Google does look at stuff like that as well. So yeah, personal branding is a little bit important when it comes to company branding too. There's aspects of it that follow through.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so branding obviously right now is huge. What are the other things that need to be in place in order for these websites to rank?
Good on page. I mean, that's one of the foundations. Make sure your website's a high quality website. go grab yourself a copy of search quality guidelines. It's like a 200-page document put out by Google, and it's really details what makes a quality website. And it talks about things about branding and company reputation and how the site should be structured and what Google expects from a high quality site. And it's becoming, that right there is becoming more and more important. Because obviously your website is kind of the hub of your digital brand, right? So Google is looking at that, making sure it's high quality. And after the last update, the Medic update, and then there seemed to be some follow-up updates associated with that as well, just a few months ago. Site quality is very important. Make sure you're dotting your I's, crossing your T's, and it's very important, as equally important for, websites in the medical field or the legal field or your money or your life type of sites as it is for a small business. It's make sure you have the about page, make sure you have your legal pages on your site. If you do any type of online sales or deposits, make sure you have a refund policy and make contact information. All those things are very important nowadays. So I think between your site quality, having a very high quality site, understanding what Google looks for there, and then just a good on-page foundation as well with your with best practice SEO is important as well. So you create your good brand. Obviously, your website's the hub of that brand. Make sure that's a very high quality representation of your business. It's going to go a long way, and it's going to set you up for success in the future.
So let's talk about link building, because that's it used to be you get the right links and that's all you need. Now it seems like there's a lot more involved. Is link building still the number one way to rank a website?
That might be a trick question. Again, every niche is going to be different, right? So we could look at maybe a local painting website and compare that to an e-commerce website, and what's going to rank one might be different than what's going to rank the other one. Saying that, links are still one of the top ranking factors, but it's not the ranking factor anymore. And links, Google has set a lot of traps when it comes to links. And if you're unfamiliar with link building or link outreach or anything like that, you really have to educate yourself to avoid falling into these traps. Everything from, using a very commercialized anchor text or too much of it, to where you're getting the links, where you're getting these your brand's being mentioned and linked to. There's a lot of traps out there for the unwary. But yes, link building is very powerful. And I think it'll continue to be very powerful with Google, just because really the Google search engine at the heart of it was built on PageRank. That's like one of the top things that set Google apart from like Alta Vista and those other ones. And PageRank was literally all about the links that a website got or a web page got. It was like, how many votes of confidence does this web page have? And then they started, obviously putting in a ton of filters in place to cut down the web spam and link spam and stuff like that, because it is manipulatable. Like, we can go out and manipulate links. But having a very solid backlink graph for your website and for your web pages that you're trying to rank is very important still. And I think it will always be, into the foreseeable future, I think it will always be fairly important.
Excellent. So you've ranked or own or manage over 700 Google My Business listings. Talk to me about what's really working for them. I know Google's put a lot of time and effort into updating some of the features on that. What have you found that's really working for Google My Business right now?
So there's a few things that are one is proximity, and you have very little control over proximity right now. Google is obviously tending to show results based on where the searcher's searching from and cluster them around that point. And if you're not in that cluster, sometimes it's going to be very hard to get that visibility you need from somebody at a particular location. Or, if they're searching from the city center and you're at the outskirts now, proximity is going to play a part of who's getting shown. But saying that, you can definitely still use relevance. I love using relevance, making sure that, and that goes along with like co-occurrence. So anytime your brand is mentioned, adding the keyword or the location alongside that co-occurrence is very great. It's a great strategy. Making sure your website's very relevant about explaining to Google exactly what you do, where you do it, the areas you serve. When Google comes and crawls your site, make sure you leave no doubt in Googlebot, that you are the relevant company for that search term. That's going to be helpful too. Optimization-wise, the listing itself, there's some things that can help. Obviously, if you get some nice keyword-rich reviews, which are hard to do when you're asking people for a review, you can't write, hey, talk about how I'm this best locksmith in Las Vegas, right? Like that's difficult to get the client to use keyword-rich reviews, but that does actually help. That does seem to move the needle a little bit. There's probably some other features in the GMB listing itself that seems to be helpful. A couple of things I like doing, obviously, GMB posting. You might not actually see ranking increases for your top keywords, but you definitely will see a visibility increase because posts help you catch long tail keywords, stuff that you aren't even thinking people are searching for to try to find your business. But some of them actually do. Like some of them type in like very long tail searches. Posts help you get that. Posts, the more often you post, most studies show the more clicks and calls that the business gets. There's definitely a correlation there. Doesn't always equate to what the rank tracker is going to show you when you do posting, but it should show up in insights. The more you post, the better your click and call numbers look in insights. So there's a bunch that you can do. The big one, obviously, relevancy, like I discussed, making sure anytime your company name's mentioned, try to also mention the location and then your keyword that you also service. That's going to go a long way to convincing Google that you're the relevant company to show in that particular case. Obviously, if you're suffering from proximity issues, that's just something you're going to have to work through. Knowing that when people are closer to your business, you're going to be more likely to show up. And if people are closer to some other location in the city, the companies there tend to be more likely to show up. There's not a whole lot of stuff you can do to influence proximity right now. Maybe getting some brand mentions from, if you can somehow link your brand to like specific points at another part of the city, maybe with like driving directions or. But then we're getting into some pretty technical theory, But the more you need to do, then the more you have to go out on the limb to really do some of this more advanced stuff.
All right. Now, we've watched mobile come in and take over, and we used to say, well, still we've got a lot of desktop searches, but now mobile has come and take over, especially for those local businesses. How do you see voice impacting the way people search in the coming years?
It's going to be more and more conversational. They're going to be, instead of using keyword plus city, which or just keyword, like if I'm, looking for a locksmith, I'll just type locksmith or locksmith near me. Whereas if I'm speaking, I'm saying, what's the closest locksmith to me? Or, it's going to be more conversational, and there's some studies out that like 20% of all searches right now are voice searches, and it's continuing to grow exponentially. The more that we go hands-free, whether it's in our homes or even driving in our cars now, voice is becoming more and more important. So understanding some basic theory on how to optimize for voice search, and it starts at using conversational search phrases and optimizing for those.
And would that be more questions?
Yeah, yes, question and answers are also great, because Google or these databases or this, basically the voice search engines, they crawl and look for that. So when somebody asks a question, they want to be able to present the best answer, and they're going to look for, you can use some schema markup on that type of stuff. You can do, and it's very similar how you would get a featured snippet on the question and answer type of thing. If you kind of follow that, I think that's a good foundation too. If you follow some of the advice that's out there on how to catch that, the featured snippet on Google, if you follow the same general strategy there, that's going to be helpful for voice search as well.
All right, Chaz. Well, I know we could probably talk all day about the ranking and the algorithms, but let's get back to the agencies and why they need your service. What have you been able to do for the companies that you've worked for already? Give me an example how you've been able to come in and really help an agency grow to that next level, and what did it mean to them?
Yeah, absolutely. So every day we're helping agencies grow and scale. I personally will work with small agencies. I have a few of them in my PM right now that I work with. Everything, and this isn't just fulfilling services for them. I also do advice. I've grown agencies, so I know some of the stumbling blocks. If they need resources or help on the back end, like, I'm available. I actually have somebody that I gave basically all my agency files to at one point and really help them develop the systems in the back end that they needed to, without having to spend money on it either. There's courses out there that'll teach you this. You spend $1,000, $1,500 and they'll give you all the forms for a good agency should have. They'll give you some good templates you can use, some good advice on setting up your systems. That's something I'll help my partners with without money. Mm-hmm. Understanding that the better they do and the more they grow, the bigger client they're going to be down the road when they actually do need done for you link building or done for you, GMB optimization. So helping them, make that leap, because that was when we had started our agency. This was years ago. Like, it took a long time to develop all those systems, everything from client onboarding to how do we schedule and manage all of our monthly client meetings and weekly updates, and how do we do referrals and upsell them. Obviously, when you have clients, you want to try to say, hey, here's a great opportunity I think fits with you need to upsell, because that's one of the ways your business grows too. Not only do you need to get new clients, but you need to take your clients you have and help them, grow their marketing and what they need and show them that. So I have a lot of tools that we used and developed over the years that, I have no problems or no qualms with sharing with my partners. So it's more than just link building. It's more than just having the done for you. It's having a real partner that you can talk with. If you need to, shoot me a PM on Facebook Messenger about, hey, can you take a look at this, or can you give me advice on that? I have no problem doing that. Now, if it's something, if it requires a deep dive into a campaign, I might charge for something like that because my time is very valuable. But if it's just, you need some advice for your agency, I will definitely help you. I'm here to help you. And I love seeing small agencies grow into mid-size agencies and then continue the growth from there upwards. So I really enjoy it.
How about reporting? What do you give to these agencies so that they can go back to their clients and show just what's been done and show the progression in the ranking.
So we have all of our reports are white labeled, and they're real time as well. So not only do they get links to real time workbooks with all their links of all the deliverables, all the login information. We also have a white labeled link reporting dashboard where it's literally a view URL where you can go and see all the links, the anchor text used, the target URLs. Makes it really nice when you're doing link building at scale to keep track of all your links. We also just recently launched our white label dashboard, but that's very inclusive. And I think it's going to grow into probably one of the best white label dashboards out there. Right now, it's still in its infancy, but it's still very nice. And phase 2 is actually in development right now, which is really going to take it to another level. Everything we do, we try to really pack the value onto. So we do link reporting, we do SERP tracking, the white label dashboard, the real-time workbooks, and best of all, access to project managers. Like, we get a monthly call with us, with our team members, with our managers. You get me if you need me or one of my partners, on a higher level. You got access to us. So it's, that might be as valuable as anything else is the access that you get with Web20.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've heard enough, Chaz. How do you sign me up? if somebody is listening to this, and I know we do have a lot of digital marketers here that listen to these interviews. If they are listening and they want help from you, what is the best way for them to get in contact?
Absolutely. Probably the easiest way is just our website, web20ranker.com. We have live chat, which is staffed from 9 a.m. Eastern time to 5 p.m. Eastern time, Monday through Friday, barring holidays, obviously. But it's even we even check in on the evenings and weekends too. So everything's going to get answered very fast. If you need to reach me personally, reach me on Facebook. I'm always available on Facebook. But to check out Web20 Ranker, it's just web20ranker.com. And we have live chat on there. We have extensive blogs, very awesome case studies on our blog, trainings, mini trainings are there. You can read all about our services. You can see sample reports. So it's really a good collection right there. We also have a couple good resources there. We have a nice little local SEO audit tool. We have a pretty cool local schema tool. And those are free for everybody. But yeah, definitely check us out. You can also check out my YouTube channel, Web20 Ranker YouTube channel. Ton of videos. Some of my former speaking videos are on there as well. Some good training, very intense training stuff that other people are going to be charging you for. You can find on my YouTube channel. And that's just, search YouTube, Web20 Ranker on YouTube. There's also a link in the sidebar on my website. So, multiple ways to find out what we're doing. And we have a ton of value on the website, on our YouTube channel. Definitely, I think it can help agencies, looking to make some leaps in their growth. And if you need any advice or anything, just reach out to me personally. I'm always available as well. So.
Excellent. Well, I'll definitely have to check that information out for myself. Chaz Edward, this has been excellent. What a great resource this is for digital marketing companies around the country. I'm sure that you're definitely going to get a lot of interest from what you've said and what you have to offer them. Chaz, thank you very much for being a guest on the Trust Factor Radio today.
Yeah, thank you, Neil. It was awesome opportunity. I'm very thankful for having me.
Excellent. And to our listening audience, if you like what you hear, hit that like button and share, and we'll see you next time on the show.
You've been listening to the Trust Factor Radio with Neil Howe. To learn about the resources mentioned in the show and to listen to past episodes, go to thetrustfactorradio.com. To get a copy of the book, The Trust Factor, go to thetrustfactorbook.com. If you are ready to act now and build your authority, credibility, and trust, schedule a consultation with Neil at theauthorityarchitect.com.